Um, so yeah. Um, why don't we, because there's a limited number of us here, why don't we go around the horn and just try to introduce ourselves and what chapter we're from? And we can start with uh, Leo.
Guilty. Leo Silva, Rolanda, University of Oklahoma.
Good to see you again, Leo. Ron,
Ron Sorter, Rolanda.
Mike Furman,
Mike Furman, Delta Chi Cornell.
Max,
Max Friedman, Beta Phi Rochester.
Heath,
Hey, Heath Rico Story, Tau Delta from Sewanee.
Anch,
Anchapadia, Delta, South Carolina.
Stephen,
Stephen Balthazar, Theta Upsilon, ASU.
Bob Tierno,
Bob Cherno, Rolanda, University of Oklahoma, Boomer Center.
Brett,
Brett Weisel, Theta Zeta, University of California, Berkeley.
Daniel,
Alpha Tau, University of Manitoba.
and then Gordon. Yeah, he's must be having issues. He put it in the chat. That's good enough. All right. So on our end, I just want to do some quick introductions from staff. My name's Craig Dick. Most people here know me. I'm the director of development for the foundation. Um, Doug has tasked me with running these. I was doing these a few years ago, but it sort of fell to the wayside. And I'm excited to bring them back and make them a more consistent occurrence. The next one will probably be in late November or early December. Um, so I've been working with Deke since 2016. I was a chapter consultant, then the director of chapter services, and then I moved over to the foundation. So unless your chapter is brand new, there's a good chance that I've probably worked with your chapter at some point over the years. And so I'm really excited to be back and working on these things again. And I'll turn this over to Tim to introduce himself real quick.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Treffery. I've been with Deke since the summer of 22, so going into, in between 3-4 years here now. I am a chapter development coordinator. So I work with the chapters like the consultants do, mostly focusing on a little bit more of the chapters that need a little bit more of attention than your average chapter. I also do some behind the scenes work with the educational aspects of DKE. That's kind of why I'm here today, kind of talk about new member ed with you all.
Thanks, Tim. Hold on one second. I'm just going to admit one more person. Sorry about this. And before we get started, I just figured, so the goal for this session is to help alumni understand their important role in shaping new members. And I just thought I'd get us started by asking, what's one thing you wished you'd learned in your new member education process that you didn't?
I can go first. I was in the founding class at Washington State, so we kind of had a little bit of an irregular new member ed process. But I think one thing that we kind of really didn't touch on as much as we should have is other chapters and just kind of the wider story of Deke. We were kind of a little bit isolated. I don't know if anyone's familiar, but middle of nowhere school, so we didn't really have a lot of interaction. I think that was one thing, is just kind of what's going on in other chapters of Deke is something I missed.
Thanks, Tim. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can go. Sorry, did I interrupt somebody?
Go
I'll
for
come
it.
in later.
Okay. So for us, Delta did a good job. I pledged in 2021, so I'm a recent graduate. Delta did a good job of teaching about Deke history and going through all of that stuff. I wish we touched more on brotherhood and stuff like that. When I joined, we had a really good culture. But I think it's important for new members to be educated on how to preserve good culture and how to operate within the chapter. I think that's something that we should emphasize more.
Great.
This is Ron Soder. When I joined Deke 60 years ago, the thing that I was completely shy, introverted, and the first thing that I found was a pledge class was immediately my tribe. And to focus on how that had meaning, I was couldn't quite grasp onto the deep part of it, the big part of it, but I did immediately grasp that I all of a sudden had friends in my pledge class, and that was overwhelmingly important. And what I was supposed to do to how to cope with that and become part of that, I was confused about that from the beginning. The very foundation part of like being the first time pledge was, oh God, what do I do? But my pledge class slowly sort of picked us all up, and the membership did as well. And I've turned into have lifelong friends with it. But that was the first thing that I tripped up on.
Fair. It's a great story.
Yeah, I'll go next. So I pledged in 68. Was it 60? Yeah, 68. So we're old guys. I think a thing that I wish I would have learned more of was the enterprise. The brotherhood part of it, I kind of got right away, and the social part of it and school. I mean, how important the scholarship is, but was the business enterprise, how important that was, because somehow we lost the recipe downstream. But and I wish I'd have been more educated on that process, because I was I became business oriented over time, but as I look back, that would have been really important.
Yeah.
I would have really appreciated knowing a little bit more of the older chapter history. So one of the things about my chapter is that we don't know why we're called Beta Phi anymore, for example. So there are some of those missing elements that I wish would have been a part of my class.
That's really neat. Yeah.
One of the things that I saw later on that we did that wasn't in my class was learning how to network and how to reach out and network with other individuals, either in your organization or outside your organization. I thought that was kind of valuable.
Definitely. Uh, Anybody else? Otherwise, happy to move on. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Tim to give you guys a bit of a look at new member education and how alumni can play an important role in that, and what it looked like back then and now what it looks like today. All right, Tim.
All right. So I'd just like to start off by describing just a bit of a vernacular change that we've made, kind of the industry has made. The difference between pledging, pledgeship, and new member or associate member education. Uh, just I think we all kind of understand that pledging does carry sort of a negative connotation amongst the wider, community today. It represents some of the more negative aspects of fraternity that we try to turn away from, try to kind of improve the image of Deke and fraternities as a whole. When people use the word pledging, often the focus is on the power imbalance between the active members and the pledge. When you're a pledge, you're kind of just a pledge. That's all you are. You're not involved in the chapter. You're just kind of around. There's this expectation of servitude, completing tasks or challenges that might be difficult, dangerous, or oftentimes illegal. And as always, there's that concern over hazing, which results in a lot of chapters closing, a lot of guys being removed from chapters, being removed from school, criminal charges, things like that. So the rebrand to new member education or associate member education, we're trying to emphasize that educational aspect of it, where we are inducting you into DEEC. This is what it means to be a DEEC in a healthy, safe environment. It's also our effort to standardize the process across multiple chapters, multiple states, multiple countries. One thing that I think we've kind of learned over the years is that as chapters have kind of shifted away from sharing traditions, that when you meet a brother, it's sort of you're lacking some of those connections that we would like people to have in between chapters. So we're trying to standardize the ritual, trying to standardize what people are learning about DEEC and what the understanding of DEEC is. The ultimate goal of new member education is to build up our members to create a better future for the chapter, strong leadership going forward, and just an overall strong brotherhood that'll last the 4 years and then, the 60+ years that I've heard some of you guys were pledging 60 years ago. So it's great that you're still here, and hopefully we can kind of continue that legacy. So the focus of new member education is the education of our new members. We're expecting them to learn the history of DEEC, the history of their chapter, the history of their school, and how they fit into it as a new member and soon to be brother of the chapter. The process also serves to create an environment that fosters brotherhood and connections among the new member class and the actives. When the focus is on pledging, we create these relationships that aren't equal. There's a hierarchy that exists beyond the initiation when everybody is supposed to be a brother. So that hierarchy remains, and it kind of builds this resentment in the chapters. So new member education is really our focus on just kind of uniting a chapter as a whole. New member education also has an emphasis on time limits. 6 weeks, that is the time limit that we prescribe to all our chapters. New member education cannot go on longer than that. 6 weeks after they receive their bid, they're supposed to be initiated, barring some extenuating circumstances. That's our cut and dry rule. Studies have shown that the longer the new member process goes on, the less educational it becomes, the less benefit they receive from it, and the higher likelihood of dangerous activities taking place. So we really want to kind of avoid that, cut out the fat, and just kind of make a lean process. And as always, DEEC International Headquarters, we are committed to the health and safety of our members, our actives, and our new members. So the standard new member program has an emphasis on supporting physical, mental, and emotional well-being of the new members as they go through the process. Lessons and activities are designed with these in mind, and new members engage in productive meetings, activities, and lessons focused on producing gentlemen, scholars, and jolly good fellows. If you want to go to the next slide, Craig. So we do have a 3, 4, and 6-week curriculum that is available to chapters. Typically, we only ask that they do the 6-week program. That's really what it was designed for. The 4 and 3-week ones are just shortened, compressed versions of that. 3 and 4-week programs are usually the result of sanctions, either from us or some sort of requirement from the university that they complete their new member process quicker than usual. So 6 weeks, that's our golden standard. Throughout the 6-week program, there is this theme of connection. The first week is the exception, where the meeting focuses mostly on the business of the fraternity, setting the calendar for the next few weeks, the meaning of fraternity, and just kind of setting the stage for the remainder of the process. Week 2, we really dig into it. It's their connection to one another, their connection to their new class. This is the week this is the meeting where they will elect their officers, discuss why they joined DEEC, and cover the importance of looking out for their brothers and holding themselves accountable, especially as typically freshmen or underclassmen. They have a lot going on, and we really want to keep them, provide them this safety net for just more support they can have on campus, the better. Week 3 is their connection to the chapter. This is where new members learn about how a chapter operates and the roles that make it work. This is also when we do big brother, little brother ceremonies, reveals. So that's sort of another way to connect them to the wider chapter. They got this guy who's already in the chapter, and they're going to spend time with him. He's going to be kind of looking out for them as they move through the process. Week 4, we emphasize the connection to the school. I think it was Max you mentioned, or I know Beta Phi, Rochester has a big history with their school. A lot of the buildings on campus are named after Deeks. So that's kind of what that focuses on is Deeks at your school. What has the chapter done in the past? You know, how was it founded? What has the contribution been of your specific alumni? And then week 5, we focus on the connection to DEEC as a whole, to the international organization, prominent alumni and how they shape the world we live in. I'm sure you guys all know, but we could list them all for the rest of this meeting and not cover them all. So, and then week 6, we emphasize the lifelong commitment that they're preparing to make. Initiation takes place at the end of this week typically. And this kind of gives them one last chance to reflect on why they want to be a DEEC, what they can bring to the chapter, what they can bring to the organization, and then what they can get out of it. Next slide. And this is just sort of an overview of our 6-week structure. So we have the meeting lecture topics. Those are typically presented by the new member educator, but there are sections where the president will come in, the treasurer can come in, health and safety can come in and kind of be a guest lecturer. And then there is homework that's reading through the new member manual, learning the songs, learning the objects of DKE. And then there's also just some general things they can do. So creating a LinkedIn profile, connecting with the actives, learning to tie a tie, and just kind of generally how to be presentable, how to be a full person. And then there are rituals throughout. So the oath of secrecy and the pinning ceremony in week 1, Big Brother ceremony, Mystic Circle, and initiation. And then the next slide should be kind of where you as alumni can fit into new member education. There's always room for an alumni to come in and speak to the chapter. From my experience, what I've seen on staff, that the actives and the new members really appreciate this sort of older, more experienced take on things. So anything that you can share from your time with the chapter, positive experiences when you were a new member, positive experiences post-initiation. There's also room for alumni to just come and talk as professionals, what it takes to get into grad school. Do you have an alumni who's a lawyer? What it was like going to law school, what those applications are like, what it's like to take an LSAT or an MCAT, anything like that. There's also logistical support. Some of our chapters don't have houses and aren't recognized by their campuses, so finding space to do things can sometimes be difficult. Any support there that you can offer, greatly appreciated. And then, of course, any ritual support. So being present for the oath of secrecy and the initial pinning, Big Brother ceremonies, mystic circles, and then initiation is always greatly improved by having alumni present. And then the next slide. Also wanted to touch very briefly on something that does not get enough attention. We do have specific trainings for alumni advisors. That's through our partners at Plaid. They are an LMS. They operate the Tightrope program, which all of our new members go through annually. And they also offer alumni and advisor training through that. So how you can support the chapter outside of new member education. We're also able to give you any of the undergrad trainings as well. So that includes Brother Beta training, health and safety training, treasurer training, and just sort of anything that the chapter learns. You guys are also more than welcome to take those lessons as well. If anybody is interested in that, feel free to stay on and ask afterwards. I can get you set up on that. And then I think that was everything about new member education. I know it was kind of quick. Are there any questions or anything anyone would like me to go over?
So for an I'm sorry, first for an alumni advisor, so we were told, so I'm chairman of our board of alumni for Rolanda. Who qualifies for being an alumni advisor? Because I was told that if you're on the alumni association board, that may be a disqualifier.
So that's a good question. The best practice really is to have, in a perfect world, there would be 3 umbrellas. You'd have your alumni housing association, you have your alumni association, and then separately you'd have your advisors. and that's mostly for legal reasons. That way that if there's something that goes on, they can't say, well, the housing association was advising us to do this, or the alumni association was telling us to do this. So the best thing to do would be to have an alumni association that deals with alumni and produces alumni newsletters. Maybe they organize roundup every year. They've got certain activities that they do. And then separately, you've got 3 or 4 alumni advisors that advise certain positions within the chapter. So Brother Beta, the recruitment chair, the VP of Health and Safety, um, the social chair, etc. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the question would be, the next question would be, okay, so we're good with that. The issue would be is, 1 or 2, 3, how many alumni advisors do you recommend?
Oh, I mean, I think, I mean, I can tap Trey on this one too, but I think the more the merrier to some extent. I mean, once we get over maybe 6 or 7, but that's a good problem to have,
Okay.
Trey.
Yeah, so we have 5 primary officer positions within the chapters. And right now, with this launch of trying to get all our chapters in a better shape with advisory boards, we want to have basically a 1-to-1 ratio with those primary chapter officers. So the answer is 5 is what we're aiming for, but somebody to directly advise the Brother Beta and who would kind of manage the advisory board and take the lead in leading the advisory board. Somebody responsible for new member education, somebody responsible for recruitment, somebody responsible for health and safety, uh, a housing person, if the chapter has a house or facility, would be great. And there's one more, I think I'm missing it. If Tim or Craig can, Brother Beta, new member education, recruitment, VP health and safety.
Treasurer.
Treasurer, yes, thank you. The treasurer. We need somebody to help with finances for sure. So if we can get 5 people, that would be an ideal state.
Is it geographic? I mean, from a geography standpoint, we have a kind of a unique situation is the number of alumni in Oklahoma that are on our board and the number of alumni that are in Oklahoma that are on our board, which probably less than 5. So is there any wiggle room there, or do we have to find another board member?
Absolutely. Being out at Texas Tech, I understand the problem of space and being far away from the chapter, but we would prefer that there is one advisor within 50 to 100 miles of the chapter, depending on geography and people are around and things, just so there's somebody that can get to the chapter if there's a crisis or an emergency. But outside of that, we're totally okay with virtual advising.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Most of it is just phone calls or Zoom meetings to just check in and make sure that everything's going well. You're planning for the future. You're reflecting on what you've done and what you can learn from what you've done. So most of it doesn't need to be done in person.
Okay.
Craig.
So you brought up Brother Beta. Could there be a Brother Beta advisor that's on the board?
On the Alumni Association board.
Yes.
Ideally, those would be separate. But I mean, Trey, you're the health and safety guy. You can speak to that.
Sure. So it's not necessarily a position title, but just 5 people. One would take a primary lead with the advisory board, and then that primary lead would also advise the Brother Beta directly for the chapter, if I understand your question correctly.
Yeah, I mean, we really only have one experienced Brother Beta. So
Oh, you're asking if a previous Brother Beta should advise the chapter Brother Beta.
yeah,
Okay. No, we don't recommend or need that. Just somebody that's there to support and work with the Brother Beta and be available to him. That's all we need. No previous Brother Beta experience required.
all right. But if he has previous experience, but he's on the alumni board, that's okay. Because there's no, I mean, there's no legal issue here. I mean, I understand the position, but just kind of a, hey, I just want to give you some tips on Brother Beta. And
Yeah, there wouldn't be any problems with that.
okay. Ron, did you get that?
I did.
I'm not speaking for you, but I mean,
gonna make the assumption Ron was Brother Beta at some point.
he's the
No,
Brother Beta.
we've got a limited. The University of Oklahoma is reestablishing, and we have 4 new founders. So we have like 4 pledges. We have an alumni organization active of only about 8 or 9 members. So we don't have the width that we would like to have to advise this. But I think what the answer that we're searching for is that we can work out whatever works as long as it's not really, crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Craig, quick question. So I am living in Cincinnati right now. Not like a ton of interest in being like in an advisory position for the Missouri chapter. I don't know too much of what's going on there. Kind of hear a little bit like here and there that, from like different alumni that, things are okay. I know that we have the Miami chapter not too far down the road. Are you able to, advise a chapter that, you weren't a part of? Like what's the Nationals, thoughts on that?
Definitely highly encouraged. I don't necessarily want to put Heath on the spot, but I'm kind of going to put Heath on the spot here because he's been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years, and he's been doing a great job doing it. So, Heath, do you want to speak
Yeah,
to that?
I don't mind that at all. Yeah, you can totally uh work with a chapter that you weren't a part of as an undergrad because it really helps with you being able to be almost like a third party to them and be really objective in the advice that you give them. I'm kind of serving a double role. I'm a advisor of Tau Delta, which is where I went at University of the South, and then also with IOTA, which is center, which is closer. I'm here in Louisville, and they're in Danville, Kentucky, and so it's a great experience to be able to pass on some of the experiences that I had with Deke as somebody in a different chapter to a chapter that I had never been had any connection with as an undergrad. So you can absolutely do it.
Yeah, can I chip in on that too? I'm Gamma Phi Wesleyan, but I went to NYU Law School, and when a whole bunch of guys at NYU decided to launch a Deke chapter, actually it's a whole New York chapter because they've taken kids from other schools as well. I live in New York. I have the affiliation with NYU, having gone to law school there, and so I raised my hand, and it's been a year of a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, one thing that I've found out during this experience, and this is if you take on this as an advisor to a school that you haven't gone to, is that you understand just how universal some of these principles of DEEC are um, to a chapter that you have no previous tie to.
Yeah.
No, thank you. That's awesome to hear. So I appreciate the answers.
Hey, I had a question that kind of related to advisory boards, and I wanted to ask um what's you mentioned something about liability issues between alumni and housing corporations. Could you maybe talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Maybe Trey, you got this?
Yeah, for sure, no worries. So that's always a really common question for advisors, and I can honestly appreciate why, especially if you're a newer advisor stepping into this, or maybe this conversation just kind of spurred your wheels into thinking a little bit. But
Yeah.
in short, if you advise and coach and you do not supervise, direct, or oversee daily operations, like giving directives of do this now or take some sort of control away from the chapter or from the undergraduate officers of the chapter, you're okay. We do purchase a significant amount of insurance, not only for the international organization, but also for our chapters, our advisors, our board of directors and officers, our house corporations, all those folks. And there is a level of insurance coverage available to you in this role, as long as you're marked down as an official advisor. And so we'll be sure that everybody's on the database and everything. But in short, as long as you advise and coach and you don't give directives or take control of the chapter, and be responsible for day-to-day operations, you're pretty much in the clear. I think that's something that we could probably add to the list, Craig, of one of these sessions in the near future, just to maybe it's only 45 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, but go over the basics of our insurance coverage for advisors.
For sure.
And did I fully answer your question, or?
Yeah, I think you did, because I'm also kind of wondering um if if we say had an advisory board as well as a housing corporation and wanted to um make that one entity, what's the liability issues with that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's industry best practice, and we go to conferences every single year for our insurance provider or with our insurance provider. And this group of fraternities, we all group purchase insurance together. And part of that meeting is best practices, how to structure things to kind of spread out the liability and protect assets. So if you think about it, if a chapter has a house, that is the asset of the chapter, right? So if somebody's suing the chapter, they're going to want to go after the house, because otherwise the organization is mostly solvent in that they might have a few grand in the bank account at best. Um, so we want to separate the house corporations from the advisory boards. We do not want any overlap of those two organizations whatsoever. And so if you're on the housing corporation or you're setting up the housing corporation, those folks and the organization should only operate in terms of typical landlord operations. So they should only be talking about holes in the walls. They should only be talking about events that happen in the house, leases, those kind of things. And that's all they should talk about. They should not talk about accountability processes, chapter operations, new member education, any of those things. All of that should be separate. And then your advisory board should be that team of advisors that advise the chapter. And the advisory board, incorporated and as a group or an organization, it doesn't have any assets. It's just people advising a chapter. So there's nothing to sue for if the advisory board makes a mistake.
That's great advice. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good advice. I mean, our history at Rolando was we had several alumni through the house constantly. Of course, we didn't have a board of directors at the time. So what I'm searching for as chairman of our board is to insulate the board from any liability issues, no matter how enthusiastic we are about a new chapter. So kind of rules of the road. Do we go buy insurance, or do we just make it clear that here's your boundary conditions in terms of advising the chapter?
Yeah, so we would want to separate those groups. And then for the advisory board, we do provide direct insurance for the housing corporations. It's kind of supplemental. We'll kind of defend them in a lawsuit for the most part, but they do end up needing to purchase their own additional property insurance from our insurance provider to get up to a decent threshold. And just in case I don't get the mic again for the rest of the evening, or there's no questions directed towards me, if you ever have questions about how any of these things are set up or about insurance, those kind of things, we can definitely set up a meeting, and we can definitely get you access to our insurance providers. They're great people, and they're willing to sit down and have a meeting with your entire board and talk through what are the areas of risk, and if you have any shortages in insurance or anything like that, if that's something that you're worried about.
Well,
Okay.
I guess based on previous experience on a launch, in this launch, we have a board, and we have, we're going to have we will have outside the board advisors, but I don't want the board, and speaking as chairman of the board, don't want the board to act as advisors. unless we have insurance, which I don't think we want to buy. And it doesn't sound like Deke wants us to do that either. And that's how we've acted throughout the rush process, through the process this last year, is that, we did our thing, but it's up to, Deke headquarters and our consultant and that kind of stuff. Now we got it launched. Don't meddle. Just be blunt, don't meddle.
Sure.
So do you agree with that, or I'm not looking for an out here. I'm just saying we have a board meeting come out next week and we're going to have a discussion about this, is that we cannot do, there's things that we can't do, but here's what our role is, Alumni Association. And there's things that we do with guys that want to be, brothers that want to be alumni advisors. That's a different shtick. And that we want to stick to that.
Okay, I fully understand now. So you would want, obviously, the House Corporation, like we talked about, separate and apart. For the Alumni Association and the Advisory Board, you can be a member of the Alumni Association. The Alumni Association, in traditional terms, would be basically this group that exists. They are alumni of the chapter, and they
Right.
get together and maybe they socialize, they do philanthropy, service, anything like that. Maybe they get together and have a few meetings. But essentially, another branch of that should be the dedicated advisors and the advisory board to the chapter. You can be a member of the the Alumni Association, the celebratory
Right.
legal group, and you can be a part of the advisory board. That's totally fun. But you do want to make sure you have dedicated advisors, but keeping all three of those organizations separate. I understand what you're saying now. That would be the advice.
Not a little bit complicated, but I think we can figure that out. Okay. Thank you.
Happy to have a more another conversation.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, it's I mean, the reality of it is that, we're a small group. We have a lot of alums outside the state and stuff, but within the state, we've got some that are in Norman, Oklahoma, where OU is, and that stuff. And if they want to do that, that's fine. But I do not think it's appropriate that we, as alumni, as a board, get heavily invested in advising the chapter for liability reasons. That's just my take, and I'm not a lawyer, but if there's a role a brother Pie can make or whatever, that's fine. I mean, that's a different issue, and we saw that as a result of a different university in Oklahoma, and by that experience that I learned that we got to be this process and procedures are important to be successful, and we didn't have those a few years back. Now we have them. Let's buy into them and do them, and I don't want to get involved in any liability issues.
Absolutely. And we're always willing to take a look at structures and how things are working together. So, Bob, if you want to grab the Rho Lambda guys and set up a meeting, we're definitely happy to do that.
I might invite you to our board meeting next week. We might have that conversation. I got to think about it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I'm good with it. It's just we as it's not dirty laundry, but we as alums, the old guys, we know the guys that meddled with the alums that meddled with the chapter, because there wasn't a board or an alumni, there wasn't any advisors. We didn't have any of this stuff, so we were on our own. So my wish is that we have boundary conditions and based on liability and product positive advisory conditions. I don't want to be in a position to tell a board, a chapter advisor who's not a member of the board, I want you to do this. Okay, I'm not doing that. That's their role as advisors. Okay, so and I think everybody on the board is going to buy into that, but or if they want to be an advisor, then maybe they should talk about something, roll into that role and we'll just fill the slot. But
yeah, I think sorry, I just wanted to mute. I think two things to remember there is that as long as you're an advisor acting in good faith and coaching the guys in the proper way that they should be coached, there is insurance available to you should something go wrong. So as long as you're doing the right thing while you're coaching the guys and you're not stepping in on, the minute details, everything should be fine. But am I getting that right, Trey? Okay. Um, I will add one more sort of lighthearted thing, then we'll talk about alumni involvement in the actual initiation and preparing for initiation. And then we'll open it back up to questions for the whole thing, and we can sit around and talk for as long as everybody wants to. So just give me 1 second here. Um, So, um, how can alumni help with initiation? We're not going to go over all the changes we made back in 2022. Some of you might have been on this call when I did one of these alumni advisor trainings back then, and we went through it in detail. I am happy to go over some of those changes with you at a later date individually. But today I'm going to spend more time on how alumni can help plan initiation and how they can be the biggest assets during initiation. Um, so one of the biggest things is creating a checklist for initiation planning. The checklist will vary widely from chapter to chapter, but it always comes back to backwards planning. We see a lot of chapters that don't plan for initiation until a couple of weeks out. Some chapters can get away with that. A lot of them can't. The ones that can usually have a house that they always use, and everyone in the house is already a member, but others aren't so lucky. Alumni advisors should really be talking um, to the new member educator either right before students accept their bids or ideally even earlier about when initiation is going to be and where it's going to be. Back when I was the director of chapter services, I don't know how many times I heard like a not very concrete answer for when is your chapter's initiation going to be? And I don't think it was because they were trying to be evasive. I think it was genuinely because they just hadn't thought about it so far. Um, and it's something that an alumni advisor should be asking their chapter. The other thing is like, do we have a venue? It's great if you have a house, but if you don't, like, you need to secure a venue. The reason there's a picture with the Masonic Lodge in the background is because those often make great venues if you don't have one. We've conducted them in churches, Airbnbs. Just make sure you've got this plan ahead of time. But you also need to ask the questions like, how much is that going to cost? How are we getting everyone from point A to point B? Um, some other stuff, does everyone have access to, or does anyone have access to the initiation ritual? Has someone looked at it recently? That's a big one too. A lot of times people don't even open it until the night before. Do we know who's going to participate? Did we invite an alumni? Should we invite alumni? That's often a question. Do we have all the materials, and not just like robes and things, but everything else that we need to go and get? I remember when I was conducting Tim's initiation, we were sitting there and we were planning it, and I'd flown all the way out to Seattle and then got in the car and drove 5 hours, and I'm reading through the stuff and I'm going, oh shoot, we missed like, these 12 things. Somebody had to drive an hour and a half north to go grab a whole bunch of stuff because there's nothing in Pullman. Um, but another thing that you guys can do is you can make yourselves a resources to new members and their parents for questions. Obviously, you can't reveal what's going on exactly, but you can reiterate the timeline. It's going to be 4 to 8 hours, not 48 hours, 4 to 8 hours. Their son won't have their cell phone, but they can get in touch with you or their brother Beta in case there's a family emergency. You can always stress that there's no hazing going on and that your son will get their phone back at the end of their ceremony. Um, and then I know I already touched on this slightly, but the best initiations are the ones that have the most thought that goes into them. The ones that have the materials that have been wisely chosen. The venue is well decorated and the scripts are well practiced. So go over this with the execs. who's going to do what roles and have them practice their roles beforehand. Encourage them to do a dry run if possible. That's, it's incredible what a few read-throughs will do for you. Um, and then finally, we're going to talk about alumni involvement during initiation. Uh, it's great for alumni to be involved. If your chapter is doing everything by the books, and I mean following IHQ's script, there should be no reason alumni cannot attend initiation. It's a great way to show neophytes that Deke is for life and not just for 4 years in college. So specifically where alumni can get involved during initiation is the Cave of Friendship. It demonstrates how brotherhood is an elevated version of friendship. We are trying to relate friendship as the bonds between brothers, both in everyday and large-scale events. Most of you would probably be familiar with this, but the Civil War poem is read during this cave. There's a lot of room for discussion and storytelling of friendship between brothers. It really helps if alumni are there because they can tell stories about deep friendships that have lasted far beyond college days. The reason I chose this photo is actually because this is the story that I tell in this cave. The friendship between Ted and I. Ted is Psi Omega Deke, class of 16. Um, this photo is of us in Alaska back in 2022, where he grew up. We didn't meet in college. We met while we were both living in Ann Arbor. He was working for a startup. I was working for DKHQ. We remained good friends ever since. He's actually coming to stay with me next weekend, which is pretty great. He spent multiple holidays with my family now. 6 years ago, when I was going through a pretty dark time, he called me up and he said, "Why don't you come visit me in San Francisco?" And we had a great weekend, and it really cleared my mind of a lot of things that were going on. And I'm sure we all have stories like this to tell, and it really shows new members the true meaning of Deke. So, I mean, I think it's very valuable to have alumni there to tell stories like this and share them with the new members. Um, excuse me. Alumni are welcome to play parts in the Cave of Wisdom as well as the Cave of Courage. The script doesn't necessarily dictate it, but I mean, it's always a great asset. There's also the final tribunal. Even guys that probably went through many decades ago probably had something similar, but the tribunal is convened at the end of the second civil visit so that the neophytes can prove their worthiness. This is an opportunity for members and alumni to ask neophytes questions about Deke and their new member education process. They need to prove their worthiness to become members of Deke. I always found it great to have a bunch of people that the new members had never seen before lead the tribunal. It adds to the mystique of the tribunal. I think when we did Tim's initiation, I think we hid Turner the whole time until the very end and we had him lead the tribunal, which is it's always great to see the look on their faces. Um, and of course, it's always great for alumni to be present to congratulate the neophytes after they've taken their oaths and become deeks. Some alumni will even host post-initiation banquets for the active chapter to attend. Um, and you know what? Chapters always need a helping hand during initiation for various odd things that come up that nobody ever thinks about. Thinking about, running up to what's that place in Eastern Washington, north of Pullman, Tim?
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
Spokane
that
at the last minute to go get some stuff. There's always a reason for extra hands at initiation. So yeah. Um, yeah. So any questions about that or what Tim talked about? Really, at this point, we sort of covered everything that we wanted to talk about, but we just want to open it up to questions in general.
I have a question.
Okay.
It's Brett here. So, yeah, Cal Berkeley has increased their number of student housing substantially. So there's more competition for kids, and the university, it seems to me, is smarter about locking freshmen into housing contracts. And so so rushing and getting people over the last few years seems to be more difficult. And, there can be organized storyboards about different rush activities for the rush week, which our guys just went through. Do you have stuff that Deke does in general that um, could help draw in people and get better turnout to and as many candidates as you can to sift through? And I'm sure other universities have added a lot of housing as companies have been formed to capitalize on that really attractive opportunity, which is student housing. So
So
I'm sure we're not the only school dealing with it.
you're looking for recruitment resources?
Yeah, yeah. So like storyboards. I assume it happens at other colleges too. So Monday we have a barbecue. Tuesday we go floating on the bay. Whatever. So sort of different things that Deke has done across different schools that you offer up as guidance for each school to help them.
Tim, can you speak to that?
Yes, so we do have recruitment resources available, just sort of guides, ideas, how to run a recruitment, how to talk to guys, things like that. We also have another member of our staff who's not here right now. Ethan Woodard is our growth specialist. The Oklahoma guys, I think, are familiar with him. He's been working with them. And his job is kind of to start new chapters, refound chapters, and to grow our current chapters. So I'm going to Brett, I have your email. I'm going to send you some information. I'm also going to put Ethan on that email. I'm going to put Travis on there as well. Just kind of get you guys in touch
Right.
when we get those conversations started.
Right. Yeah, I mean we're doing fine, but we'd love to get to 80 people, and we're probably 45 and added class of 12. And, we'd love to do even more. It's it's great to get to 80 and those kind of numbers. So yeah, that's all we have. Great, thank you.
Of course.
Other questions?
Some more feedback. I think this has been very helpful. Going into our next board meeting, et cetera. But anyway, Ethan's doing a great job for us, by the way. And, it's great guidance. We need that guidance so that, we don't run an open loop in this situation. So I appreciate it.
Greg, this is Ansh. Again, yeah, great session. This is good. I just wanted to ask, are you guys going to be holding any more of these, maybe with some different topic focuses, perhaps chapter growth, recruitment, etc.?
For sure. The next one hopefully is either going to be towards the end of November or early December. And as we're wrapping up tonight, I have a poll because I've got a few subjects that I am mulling over which to do next. And based off of what you guys decide, I will do next.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And again, my reason for asking is, at Delta, we've had good years, we've had bad years, and then as of recent, we've had a really good year. They did good with their recruitment. But I think in the future, as more guys step into advisory positions, it'd be good to refresh knowledge and keep that fresh.
For sure. And Trey and I are actually in the process of putting together some stuff to do some more alumni onboarding. This is supposed to be more like general alumni training covering different topics of interest. But Trey and I in the coming weeks are going to start working on new alumni advisors. So if there's some guys that you would like us to sort of chat with, maybe help you onboard them, let me know or let Trey know, and we can work with them as we as we move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, then I will put up the poll as Ansh was asking about. I say that I haven't used Zoom in a very long time. I hope this poll works. I really do. Uh, can everybody, okay, one second. Can everybody see that poll?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, And yeah, we want to make sure that these topics are relevant to you guys. Just given this time of year, we figured we'd talk about new member education. There are obviously other, very important topics to talk about. So, yeah, we wanted to use this to make sure that we're addressing your most pressing needs.
Hey, Craig, since I've got you here, I wanted to ask, your poll just reminded me, um, our current uh, finance chair said that Nationals is having all the chapters switched to, was it Omega Phi, or I forget
Probably
which
crowded.
crowded. What's the benefit and reason for us doing that?
I can speak to the benefits of Crowded a little bit. So Crowded is I believe it's entirely online. They don't have, if they do have a physical location, it's one or two office type buildings. And one of the benefits of Crowded is they are designed for student organizations, including fraternities. So the one of the major benefits is just the ease of transitioning. We have a lot of chapters that struggle with producing the notes, going to the bank, getting the name switched over. So they have a lot of past people on there, or they have to go find someone who's already graduated, get them to, fill out a letter, call the bank, something like that. Crowded is really easy. It's just contact the rep. He makes the switch. They also do dues collection. So they have a platform and the ability for members to make payments to them. And then that goes to the chapters account, which they can use to pay for dues, use to pay for social events, whatever it is they're doing. They can also issue temporary cards, just like a digital card to your phone's wallet. It's preloaded. It's like, oh, John, go get whatever supplies, go get snacks or something. Here's $100. So John goes, uses the card, comes back. It's easy like that. There's no handing out cash. There's no writing checks. There's no, hey, I need that card back, or hey, what happened to the card? It's just a more convenient system we've found.
Ooh. And are all the chapters going to be required to get on Crowded?
I believe we're encouraging chapters at the moment. And then the only requirements that I'm aware of, and if I'm wrong, anyone please feel free to correct me, are for chapters that have financial issues. So for some reason or another, whether it be sanctions from us or just a record of financial instability with the chapter, that's when we have mandated it.
Cool. Thank you. I'm going to communicate that back to Delta's exec. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Thank you, Tim.
Of course.
Sorry. I'm assuming that everybody's had the chance to fill out the poll, so I will end that. I mean, I can share the results with you guys too if you want. But it looks like initiation's a big one. But how to review and support sound financial practices is also a big one, and fraternity insurance and how it works. So it sounds like we've got our next three topics that we will be talking about in the in the coming year. So look for those invitations in the near future. Yeah, otherwise, what else? Are there any other questions or concerns or literally anything else on your mind about Deke that maybe we can answer tonight?
Craig, just a suggestion for future sessions. I think one thing a lot of chapters could benefit from, whether they've had to deal with it in the past or if they end up having to deal with it in the future, is culture stability and how to preserve that. I think even strong chapters can have culture issues, and unfortunately, have gotten to see firsthand how it can drastically change a chapter and affect it. So I think some training on that would be beneficial for everybody.
Like preserving a culture or just managing sort of the ebb and flow of cultures within a chapter?
Um, I'm gonna say both. Just because you currently have a good culture doesn't mean that it's gonna always last.
Very true. Um,
Yeah,
one of
I have to agree with that. I think the main thing is the culture has to be consistent over time. So you can't have an ebb and flow. So and I'm currently working in a business where culture and values really make a big difference. And unless you are consistent about it, it it will fail. And so, I agree that we how you reinforce the culture over time so that the ball doesn't get dropped downstream.
True, but that assumes that the culture in the chapter is healthy too. Um,
Yeah, I agree, but
Sometimes we need to move that needle as well.
sure.
Uh, one of the things I wanted to add to what Tim was talking about with alumni involvement during Newmer Bread, and I think this is pretty unique to our chapter, but and we were fortunate to be in a large metro area, but we had guys that would come in, alumni that would come in on a weekly basis and teach us a different song from the Newman Bread manual, and it was their excuse to come by, right? And we spent 15 minutes learning the song. And then after the meeting, we'd all talk to the alum and get to know them and, why did you join Deke, all that sort of stuff. And uh, I thought it was a really fun way to meet new or different alumni.
Yeah, we've initiated that at Pi Beta at Troy. Every other week, it's either older alum, then the next week, a younger alum, and they all answer the same two questions. How Deke benefited our careers, and what does Deke mean to you? And that way they see guys from the past they haven't seen a lot of, and then they'll recognize obviously the younger alums, and they're just starting their careers. And I'm hoping by the end of the semester they'll have a mental database on how to better recruit people, because those are, after last night's session I had with them, they were writing down everything. They're like, hey, these are great talking points. I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you don't sell yourself, you'll go away. I mean, it's just common sense, but 18 to 20-year-olds, I mean, they don't have the life experience yet to, put the whole package together. They see all these great ideas Deke has and the history and the culture, but how do you implement it? You can have the greatest organization in the world, which we do, but yes, the implementation of it and getting it to soak in, and that, you just make some better people down the road.
For sure.
Greg, this is Ron Sorter. This has been really helpful. I have to be downtown in like half an hour, so I'm going to have to bail. But thank you. This has been great.
No problem. Have a good evening, Ron.
Yeah, too.
All right. Um, Unless there's any other questions, I think we'll wrap up for the evening. And Like I said at the beginning, this has been recorded, so everybody that registered, I will share this meeting with you so that you can refer to it going forward as well. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining this evening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Have a good evening.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Craig.
thanks for having me.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank
No
you, Trey
problem.
and Tim, too.
And Trey. Thanks, Trey.
Thanks, Craig. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Max. Bye.